Hello and welcome to Health Homeopathy and Me. I'm Raquel, and today I'm going to tell you how to take a homeopathic remedy. If you've been following my channel so far, you should have a pretty good basic understanding of what homeopathy is, how to find a remedy when you need one, and now I'm going to tell you how to take that remedy. I'm going to talk about the dosing method that my homeopath, Mary Aspinwall, teaches because it's the method that I use every time somebody in my family needs a remedy, and it has never let me down. Mary has a fabulous Facebook group called Mary's Homeopathy Study Group, and it is dedicated to helping individuals and families find the remedies that they need for acute situations. You can take that information that you gather in your clams and put it into the group, and they are very helpful if you ever get stuck and you're having trouble determining a remedy. For my video today, I am going to talk about what potencies you should be using, what a dry dose is, what a wet dose is, the easiest way to give a remedy to children, and if you stick around until the very end, I will include a clip of my kiddos taking a dose of their homeopathic cell salt, which is kind of like a homeopathic supplement, but that would demonstrate how you would take a dry dose. And then I'll also give a little demonstration with a wet dose, but it will be blank. There won't actually be a remedy in it because they don't need one right now. But if you want to see some cute kiddos, hang on until the end. As always, everything I'm about to say is intended for educational purposes only and is not intended as medical advice. If there's ever any question as to whether somebody needs professional care, be sure to contact the relevant health professional. Oh, and if you want to see more videos like this, be sure to click the subscribe button, and then after you've clicked that subscribe button, hang out and click that alert button that shows up next to it so that you get notifications every time I post a new video. So let's pick up where I left off in my last video. Someone is sick, you've gathered all of the information you need for the clams, you went through the repertory with your repertory chart, and then you went through the Materia Medica, and you have picked the first remedy you want to try. Now you need to know what potency to use. When I first started learning homeopathy, potency was something really hard to figure out because I felt like every book I read, every homeopath I looked at online had different recommendations and different guidelines for different potencies in different situations. And it was just really hard to sort through when I had an individual situation. And then I found Mary's Homeopathy Study Group on Facebook, where she teaches very, very simple guidelines, and they have always worked for me. So that's what I'm going to tell you now. Start with a 30C. In most acute situations across the board, a 30C is a great place to start. It's a middle of the road potency, but it really covers a lot. There are instances where the 30C was working and then it stops working. At that point, you may need to move up to a 200C. And there are a few situations where it would be appropriate to start with a 200C, like immediately after an injury or after surgery or during childbirth. And actually, a lot of pregnant women find that they need a 200C to cover anything during pregnancy because their body just seems to burn through the 30C too quickly. I know this was true of me. Even when a remedy was well matched, the 30C just didn't have enough oomph to get the job done, and the 200C usually covered it really, really well. These two potencies, the 30C and the 200C, are pretty much all you need to cover any acute situation that you should be treating at home. All of the other potencies can really be left to a homeopath to determine. Anything higher than a 200C should only be used under the care of a homeopath because they can have reactions and different things that go along with them, and you want a homeopath to be following that journey. And then anything lower than a 200C, it might work. It usually requires more dosing, but there's really no reason to choose a lower potency over the 30C as long as you're following the law of the minimum dose and you're not dosing on a schedule, but you're dosing based only on your symptoms. Okay, I'm going to actually switch the camera angle for a minute so that you can look down, and I'm going to show you a bunch of different remedies, because now we're going to talk about what a dose is and the size of a dose. Here are a bunch of pills, and I provided the little pencil there just for a little bit of scale. And any single one of these pellets, from the largest to the smallest, is a dose. One pellet is equal to one dose. Remember, homeopathy is not material medicine. It has been diluted past the point of Avogadro number, and there is not even a single molecule left. So the size of the pellet doesn't actually matter. I thought I would tell you which brands these are. So this is Helios. This is the largest tablet Helios has. This is Hyland's, one of Hyland's lactose quick dissolve tablets that are really easy to find in the store. In between here would have been Boiron's. It's just slightly larger than this one, which Boiron is another common brand found in the store. But I actually did not pack any with me, so I don't have one to show you. And then this one is another Helios. This is this one is a Helios, and this is from my kit. I have a Helios childbirth kit, and this is the size that comes in the kit. This is another Helios, and this was a remedy that I ordered individually, not in the kit, so I got to pick the pellet size, and I actually picked a smaller pellet size because then I get more doses in a bottle, and the price doesn't actually change. So it was just more cost effective to do that. This one is from my Washington Homeopathics kit, and I thought these were the smallest pellets that were made until I got these ones, which came out of my A to Z homeopathy kit, and I was just shocked at the size of those. And even on the box for that, it says 3 to 4 pellets, but really you only need 1 or 2. But it is really hard to get only one of those pellets out. I've gotten pretty good at only getting one of those out, but those ones are really tough. And it's okay to take a few, as long as you take the remedy all at once. It doesn't matter how much you take, even if it's the entire bottle or one pellet, it's all one dose, which actually makes this really safe for kids, because even if they run off and they steal a bottle of remedies, or as my child did, 11 bottles from a kit of remedies, and they eat them all, as long as they've done it all in one sitting, it's one dose. You don't have to worry about any amount of toxicity coming from it, which is a huge relief as a parent. All right, now that you've chosen your potency, which is most likely going to be a 30C unless you're pregnant or experiencing some pretty intense outside-in type symptoms, you're going to take your remedy and tap it into the lid. I actually did that already, but you can't see. And then you just tip your head back and pop it into your mouth. You want to try not to touch the pill with your fingers. And you obviously want to try not to touch the bottle cap to your mouth, just for contamination. The reason you don't want to touch the remedy with your fingers is because you may have traces of scent, either from soap or essential oils or lotion, or if you're anything like me during illness, chopping up all the garlic everybody will be eating. And that strong scent, any strong scents left on your hands, could possibly antidote the remedy. And the other reason would be, even if there's nothing on your hands to antidote the remedy, you could actually, by touching it, be giving yourself a dose. And if you do that repeatedly when giving the remedy to somebody else, you could end up proving the remedy yourself if you're touching it and getting a dose every time when your body isn't asking for it. So those are just a couple reasons. We just say don't touch the remedies with your hands, just pop them right into your mouth. Sometimes with kids, when you give them the remedy, they only keep it in their mouth, especially little babies, for just a couple seconds, and then they spit it right back out at you. Or a lot of kids will just chew them up. They don't let them dissolve under their tongue, and that's okay. Even just a couple seconds of contact with the mucous membranes in their mouth is usually enough to give them the dose of the remedy that they need. It's okay if they spit it out, you don't have to worry about it. It's okay if they chew it up, you don't have to worry about it. So Mary's method when taking a remedy is to start with a dry dose and then move on to a wet dose. The reason that we do both is because sometimes a person will respond better to one over the other, and we want to make sure that we've covered all of our bases as to why a remedy might not be working before we decide to move on to the next remedy. There are a couple of exceptions, mainly with children. It is fine to skip that dry dose if it is just too difficult to get into their mouth, or if you want to avoid the sugar that's in the pellet, or if you have an infant under 6 months, we usually say skip the dry dose so that you can preserve their virgin gut. You don't want to give them anything besides breast milk or formula. And actually, if the child is breastfed, the mom can take the remedies, both dry dose and wet dose, and the baby will get it through the milk. Or you can give it in a bottle of pumped breast milk or formula. If you do give the remedy to a baby through a bottle of breast milk or formula, you need to make sure that you use it all in one sitting, and that you don't continue to give it over an extended period of time, because each time that they go back to that bottle would actually be considered another dose, and you don't want to be giving them too many doses. When giving it to animals, actually, you can skip straight to the wet dose because it's really hard to get a dry dose into an animal's mouth, or you can put it right into their water dish, and they actually can usually self-dose. They are usually pretty good at deciding when they need to go get a dose or not, and that way it's just available for them. So what is this wet dose I have been talking about so much? Well, here's what you do. You take a bottle, glass, or a jar. Glass is preferable, but plastic will do in a pinch if you're out and about and if that's all you have, but glass is definitely preferred. And you fill it 2/3, you can see better on this one, 2/3 full of water. The purest water that you have. I use water from my Berkey. And then you take your remedy into the cap of your jar, or of your container for the remedy, and you tap it on in there. And then you put the lid back on very tightly, and you're going to bash it 10 times against the palm of your hand, or a nice thick solid book. Usually works pretty well. 10 times. And there you go. There's your first dose for your wet dose. It doesn't matter the size of the jar. What matters is the amount of water in there. You want that 2/3 full of water so that there's enough space up here so that when you bash it, there's enough kinetic energy to change the potency just slightly. You're actually kind of mimicking the process of making a homeopathic remedy. We just want to mimic that process to change the potency slightly. There's actually 3 things that happen when we use a wet dose. The first is that some people are just more sensitive to wet dosing, and so when a dry dose wouldn't have worked for them, the wet dose does. When I first heard about and then started trying wet dosing, I was pretty skeptical, but I can tell you from personal experience that it works and it makes a difference. It really does make a difference during an illness when you can change that potency just a little bit, change that signal. I have seen a remedy go from not working to working again with wet dosing, and it's really cool. So here are the steps. You have gathered the clams and gotten all the information. You've gone through the repertory with your repertory chart, selected a few remedies, gone to the Materia Medica, picked one remedy, picked your potency, and you took your first dry dose. And it helped. So you're going to wait. You're going to wait till your symptoms return again. Then you're going to make up your wet dose and take that wet dose. And you're going to wait again. And every time you need another dose, you're going to bash the bottle 10 times and then take another dose. If that then seems to stop working, it was working and then it stops working, you're going to take the bottle and bash it 100 times. Usually when I'm going to bash a bottle 100 times, I don't like to use my hand because that ends up being painful. I will bash it on a nice thick book. It's often my Bible. And I bash it 100 times. You want something nice and thick with a little bit of elasticity, just so you can get a firm enough succussion going on. So you will do that 100 times and then take another dose. Often it makes a big difference. The first time I tried this, it made a huge difference. My daughter had an ear infection. She had stopped responding to the remedy and she was rolling around and crying and just completely in pain. The remedy I had stopped working after it had worked a couple of times. Bashed it 100 times, gave it to her, worked again. It was amazing. She fell right to sleep just a couple of minutes later. So if you're skeptical, I understand, but try it. You have nothing to lose from trying it, and it really is cool. All right. And then you've bashed your 30C 100 times, taken that. Then you'll continue to bash it 10 times every time you need another dose after that. If after you've bashed it 100 times, it stops working again, it's time to go up to a 200C. And you're going to follow the same process. You start with a dry dose and you wait. And then you take a wet dose and you wait until your symptoms return. And you're bashing that 10 times, just the same as you did with the 30C. And then you may get to the point where that even stops working. You have to bash it 100 times. And then you take another dose. I've actually only gotten to where I needed to bash a 200C 100 times, I think once in the whole time that I've been using homeopathy, and that was during pregnancy. I had a lot of sacral pain and in the last trimester, and I had used the same remedy for the last couple of months. I really needed it to be adjusted, but my chiropractor wasn't quite getting it where it needed to be. So the remedy really helped with the pain, but towards the end, after I'd been using it for a couple of months on an almost daily basis, I did need to bash it 100 times. But that's been the only time, I think, with a 200C that I actually had to bash it 100 times to get more effectiveness out of it. All right, just a couple final notes. When you're done with a remedy in a bottle and you're done with the illness, you need to sterilize the bottle. Pour out whatever's left of the remedy and either boil it in water for 10 minutes, or I usually just heat up the water in my tea kettle, pour it in, and leave it there until it's cooled, and then I dump it out and let it dry. The reason you want to do that is because the signature of the remedy can actually still be present on the glass inside the bottle, and so if you were to use it again for another remedy later, they could end up antidoting each other, or you could end up proving the remedy that was in here first. So you just need to get it hot. Heating up the bottle kind of destroys whatever remnants of that remedy would be left. The second is it's always a good idea to take remedies on a clean mouth if you can. That means waiting about 10 minutes after food. It's not 100% you have to do it. It's just that sometimes if you do have something particularly potent in your mouth, it could antidote the remedy before your body is able to recognize it. Also, if you're like me and you take a lot of garlic during illnesses, you want to take your remedy first, wait about 10 minutes to give the remedy a chance to get going in your body, and then take your garlic so you're not worried about that strong, potent scent of the garlic antidoting the remedy. And then finally, strong scents like diffusing essential oils, or anything in the air can actually antidote not only the remedy that you're taking, but if you open your bottle around those scents, or you store a bottle that's not been closed properly, or that's plastic close to those scents, you could end up antidoting your entire bottle. So if you do choose to diffuse essential oils during an illness, take your bottle outside to open it, and make your wet dose outside, and then you can use your wet dose bottle inside because it was only 1 pellet, so if it's antidoted, it's okay. And it's actually, some people say it's actually harder to antidote a wet dose than a dry dose. I don't really have any experience with that. Once I started using homeopathy, it worked so well and so quickly that I actually haven't been using essential oils much at all during illnesses anymore. They're kind of been relegated to cleaning now. Just because homeopathy is so effective and so fast, I don't want to take the chance of anything interfering with it, and I haven't felt like I needed them. Oh, and also with essential oils, some people say that you're safer with the citrus oils and the floral oils than with the really strong oils. Definitely with peppermint. Peppermint is known for sure to antidote remedies, but anything that has a really strong camphor or that menthol component to it is much more likely to antidote a remedy than the florals or citrus. So that's something to keep in mind. With antidoting, some people say it hardly ever happens. Other people say you have to be really careful. The only thing I can really tell you is trial and error. You'll find out what affects you and your family more or less. And my guess is it's probably different from person to person, depending on how sensitive they are to these different things. All right, that's everything I have for you today. Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to click that like button. And if you haven't subscribed, be sure to subscribe and click the alert button so that you won't miss a thing. I hope you have a wonderful day. Oh, and here's a little clip of my kiddos showing you how they take remedies. Tip your head back. Ready? Can I have some of that? Some back over here. This is just water.